There comes a point in life when you realize that the harder you try to make everything work, the more resistance you create. You plan, you push, you chase, yet peace seems to move further away the faster you run toward it. Alan Watts often compared this struggle to trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips through your fingers. Life is not something to be controlled or conquered. It is something to be danced with. The flow you're searching for begins only when you stop demanding that life follow your rhythm and finally learn to listen to its music. For years, you've been taught that progress means movement, constant, measurable, visible action. But Watts would challenge this illusion. He'd remind you that even a seed knows how to grow without being told when or how. The sun doesn't rush its rising, and the river doesn't force its current. Yet both fulfill their purpose perfectly. Your obsession with speed, control, and certainty is what interrupts the very harmony you're trying to find. You're not failing because you're not trying hard enough. You're exhausted because you're trying too hard. When you chase outcomes, you make life conditional. Happiness becomes something that exists only on the other side of achievement. You tell yourself, I'll be at peace when, but that when never arrives, because every goal you reach creates another. What's called this the backward law, the paradox that the more you pursue what you want, the less you experience it. Chasing peace creates anxiety. Chasing success creates emptiness. Chasing love creates loneliness. You cannot grasp fulfillment through grasping. It appears only when you stop reaching. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means surrendering to the natural flow of existence, the rhythm that has carried galaxies, oceans, and seasons long before you ever tried to control them. Watts taught that you are not a separate entity struggling against the universe. You are the universe expressing itself as you. When you finally see that, effort becomes effortless. Life begins to move through you instead of against you. What you once chased begins to find you, because you are no longer blocking its path with fear and tension. So perhaps this is the truth you've been avoiding. The moment you stop forcing, life starts unfolding. The moment you stop chasing, you start arriving. And in that stillness, that sacred pause between wanting and surrendering, you realize that flow was never something to find. It was always there, quietly waiting for you to stop running long enough to feel it. Alan Watts often said that our greatest tension comes from believing life is a problem to be solved rather than a song to be danced. From a young age, we're conditioned to chase, to strive for success, recognition, and meaning as if peace were a prize at the end of effort. Yet, the harder we chase, the further away we drift from the very serenity we crave. What's called this the backward law. The more you try to grasp happiness, the less you experience it, because happiness cannot be hunted, it can only be allowed. It's the same paradox as trying to fall asleep by trying to fall asleep. The more you force it, the more it resists. Every act of desperate striving comes from fear. Fear of not being enough, of being left behind, of losing control. But here lies the illusion. You are never in control to begin with. The clouds move without your command. The tides rise and fall without your permission. Even your heartbeat, the very rhythm of your existence, is not your doing. Watts taught that freedom begins the moment you realize you are not the doer, but the happening. Life isn't something you manage. It's something that unfolds through you. The modern world worships effort, as if exhaustion were proof of worth. We applaud those who grind, who push harder, who never stop. But Watts warned that obsession with progress blinds us to the present. When every moment is a stepping stone to something else, life becomes an endless rehearsal, and you never get to perform. You never arrive. You just keep chasing shadows of satisfaction that vanish the moment you touch them. So how do you stop the chase? The secret is surrender. Not the surrender of defeat, but of alignment. Watts described this as the art of Wu Wei, the effortless action born from harmony with the flow of life. It's not passive, it's deeply intelligent. It's the tree bending with the wind instead of breaking against it. It's the dancer who doesn't control the rhythm, but becomes one with the music. When you stop resisting, life stops pushing back. And in that surrender, something magical happens. The tension dissolves. The striving quiets. You realize that peace was never at the finish line. It was here all along, hidden beneath the noise of your own pursuit. The river doesn't chase its destination. It simply flows. And yet, it always reaches the sea. Letting go is the most misunderstood act of courage. To the mind, it feels like loss. To the soul, it feels like freedom. Alan Watts believed that clinging is the root of human suffering, not because desire is wrong, but because attachment distorts reality. We try to freeze the ever-changing nature of life into something permanent, forgetting that impermanence is the nature of life itself. The tighter we hold, the faster things slip away. But when we release, we make space for flow to return. Watts used the image of water to describe the essence of letting go. Water doesn't resist, it adapts. It moves around obstacles not by fighting them, but by flowing with them. It's soft yet unstoppable, humble yet powerful. When you learn to move like water, life stops being a battlefield and becomes a river of discovery. You realize that control is an illusion, and that peace is not found in conquering chaos, but in moving gracefully through it. Letting go also means allowing yourself to be carried by uncertainty. This is where most people hesitate. We crave control because it gives the illusion of safety, yet Watts reminded us that control is the opposite of life. To live fully, you must be willing to fall into the unknown. That's where creativity, love, and transformation dwell. When you stop clinging to what should be, you open the door to what can be. The universe does not respond to fear, it responds to openness. This surrender is not passive resignation, it's active participation. It's saying yes to what is, without trying to reshape it into what your ego demands. When you stop fighting the current, you conserve energy, awareness, and clarity. You start seeing paths that were always there, but hidden beneath resistance. In Watts's words, to let go is to be free to be moved by life rather than trying to move life yourself. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you notice a shift. The tension you carried in your body begins to soften. The worries that once consumed your thoughts start to lose their weight. You realize that the act of letting go does not leave you with less. It leaves you with space. And in that space, life begins to breathe again. The river of being finds its natural rhythm. And for the first time, you feel carried instead of chasing. Control is one of the greatest illusions the mind ever created. We convince ourselves that if we plan enough, predict enough, or worry enough, we can force life to obey our will. But Alan Watts would laugh gently at this notion, reminding us that we are not separate from the flow we're trying to command. The universe is not a machine with buttons to push. It is a living organism that breathes, shifts, and responds in ways beyond comprehension. To seek control is to misunderstand your role. You are not the conductor of existence. You are one note in its symphony. Watts taught that the desire to control is born from fear, the fear of chaos, loss, or uncertainty. But in truth, chaos is only the name we give to patterns we do not yet understand. When you loosen your grip on control, you begin to see a hidden order beneath what once felt random. Life, like music, is not meant to be predictable. Its beauty lies in variation, surprise, and movement. To demand that every note align with your expectation is to silence the melody altogether. Consider how often control has brought you suffering. You try to control relationships, outcomes, even your emotions, and yet, the more you tighten your hold, the more life resists. Watts compared this to trying to hold your breath to keep air inside you. The very act meant to preserve life is what suffocates it. True peace comes not from mastery over circumstances, but from trust in their unfolding. Control may create the illusion of safety, but surrender creates the reality of freedom. When you release control, you return to the natural rhythm of existence. You become like the ocean that allows both waves and stillness, like the wind that moves freely through every open space. Watts once said, "You are not a stranger here. You are the universe experiencing itself." The moment you realize this, fear loses its power. You stop trying to manipulate life into your image, and instead allow life to reveal its image through you. So let life move. Let it surprise you, challenge you, and stretch you. The dance becomes effortless when you stop trying to lead. Control is heavy. Flow is weightless. The choice between the two is not external. It's internal. And the moment you let go of control, you discover something profound. Life was never against you. It was always waiting for you to stop resisting its embrace. Once you stop chasing and controlling, a new awareness begins to emerge, a stillness that was always there, hidden beneath the noise of striving. Alan Watts called this the background of consciousness, the quiet space from which all thoughts, emotions, and actions arise. It is not emptiness in the negative sense, but fullness disguised as silence. It's the calm you feel when you pause long enough to notice that behind every movement of life, there is a deeper rhythm, timeless, effortless, eternal. Watts taught that we live in a constant state of distraction because we mistake activity for purpose. We fear stillness because it feels like nothing is happening, yet that nothing is where everything real begins. In stillness, you reconnect with the essence of being, not doing, not achieving, not proving. You realize that the universe does not need your constant interference to function perfectly. Trees grow, hearts beat, planets orbit, all without your control. And if existence can handle galaxies, surely it can handle your path. This stillness is not a pause in the flow. It is the flow, observed from awareness. The paradox is that the moment you stop trying to move faster, life accelerates naturally. When you stop trying to think your way forward, clarity arrives uninvited. The mind, once frantic, becomes a clear window instead of a fogged mirror. You stop identifying with thoughts and start watching them drift like clouds across an infinite sky. Many people resist this stillness because it exposes what's beneath distraction, fear, doubt, or sadness. But Watts would say that these emotions are not obstacles. They are invitations. When you stop running, you finally allow what's been chasing you to speak. And once it's heard, it dissolves. Stillness is not about escaping pain. It's about integrating it. It's about realizing that silence doesn't hide truth. It reveals it. And as you rest in that awareness, something miraculous happens. You no longer need to chase life because you've found the pulse of life within you. This is what Watts meant when he said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." The simplicity of that truth feels almost too light to grasp, yet it carries the weight of all existence. The flow was never out there. It was always here, quietly waiting beneath your noise, ready to carry you home. Everything you love, everything you fear, everything you chase will eventually change form. That is the silent truth beneath every heartbeat. Impermanence. Yet we resist it, terrified of endings, desperate to freeze moments that were never meant to stay. Alan Watts taught that this resistance to change is what keeps us in suffering. We try to make life solid when life is liquid. We cling to people, identities, and outcomes as though they could last forever, forgetting that their very transience is what makes them sacred. Watts often compared existence to music, a melody only beautiful because it ends. If a song never concluded, you wouldn't listen, you'd escape it. It's the impermanence of each note that gives it meaning. Likewise, your moments, your relationships, your achievements, their beauty lies in their passing. When you stop trying to make them permanent, you begin to experience them fully, without fear of loss. You finally taste the sweetness of the present because you no longer demand it to last. The ego hates impermanence because it feeds on identity, on the idea of, I am this, I have that, I belong here. But when things shift, the ego panics, mistaking change for death. Watts would laugh softly at this fear, reminding us that transformation is not destruction, it's renewal. Just as autumn leaves fall to make way for spring, every ending clears the ground for something new to emerge. Life is not a straight line. It's a cycle, an endless rhythm of birth, decay, and rebirth. When you embrace impermanence, fear loses its grip. You stop resisting transitions and start flowing with them. You no longer mourn every ending as a tragedy, because you begin to see that nothing truly ends, it only transforms. Energy shifts, forms change, and life continues in new expressions. The flower becomes fruit, the fruit becomes seed, and the seed becomes life again. Once you understand this, loss turns into gratitude, and change becomes your teacher instead of your enemy. To accept impermanence is to say yes to life. It is to stop freezing the river and instead let it carry you. You begin to live not as someone clutching at time, but as someone dancing with it. This is not resignation, it's liberation. Because once you stop fighting the passage of time, you begin to see that eternity is not endless duration. It is the timeless awareness flowing through every fleeting moment. When Alan Watts spoke of living in flow, he often invoked the ancient Taoist concept of Wu Wei, effortless action. It doesn't mean laziness or passivity. It means aligning with the natural rhythm of life so deeply that your actions become as spontaneous as breathing. Most people confuse control with strength and effort with progress, but what's revealed the paradox? The most powerful things in existence, the tides, the wind, the heartbeat, move effortlessly. They do not struggle, yet they accomplish everything. Effortless action begins when you stop acting from fear and start moving from trust. The anxious mind says, "I must make this happen," while the awakened mind whispers, "Let me see how this unfolds." When you stop forcing outcomes, your decisions become clearer and your intuition louder. You begin to notice that life, when allowed to flow, delivers opportunities that pushing could never produce. You don't lose direction, you gain harmony. The current carries you where effort never could. But this doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. What's clarified that Wu Wei is not an action, it's right action. It's doing what needs to be done without friction, without inner war. When you act from presence rather than pressure, even simple moments, washing dishes, writing, walking, become effortless expressions of the universe living through you. There's no separation between you and what's happening. There's only flow. Most people believe peace comes after they achieve success. Yet what's revealed the opposite? Success flows from peace. When your mind is still and your heart aligned, everything you touch gains clarity. You stop chasing meaning because meaning infuses everything you do. The dancer becomes the dance. The painter becomes the brush. The river becomes the rain. This is the secret of effortlessness. Not escaping life, but melting into it so completely that you no longer stand apart. And once you taste this way of being, striving feels unnatural. You begin to live with grace, not grind. Each moment feels guided, not forced. You realize that the most profound power comes not from doing more, but from being more aware. Wu Wei is not an escape from the world. It's participation in its deepest truth, that when you stop fighting the current, you don't lose control. You discover you were never separate from the river at all. The hardest part of surrendering is trusting what you cannot yet see. Alan Watts often spoke about this as the essential leap, the willingness to fall into the river of existence without needing to know where it leads. For most of us, this feels terrifying because we've built our sense of safety on predictability. But what would remind us that uncertainty is not chaos? It is the very essence of life's intelligence. The river always knows where it's going, even when you don't. When you trust its flow, you discover a strength far deeper than control. The strength of faith, not in belief, but in being. Trust doesn't mean everything will unfold according to your plan. It means you begin to see that even detours are part of the path. Watts described this as the wisdom of insecurity, the understanding that security, in the truest sense, comes not from stability, but from acceptance. You can't stand at the edge of a river and demand that it stay still. The moment you do, it stops being a river. Likewise, life ceases to flow when you demand certainty. True safety arises when you stop resisting movement and start participating in it. When you live with this kind of trust, anxiety begins to dissolve. The mind, once filled with constant what-ifs, grows quiet because it finally recognizes that control was never the solution, awareness was. You begin to see beauty even in the unknown. A delay, a rejection, a sudden change. None of it feels like an interruption anymore. It feels like choreography. Life isn't something happening to you. It's something happening as you. Watts believed that the universe operates in perfect symmetry. Every experience, even the painful ones, serves a greater unfolding. When you trust this rhythm, you move through challenges with grace. You don't collapse under the weight of uncertainty. You float with it. The current doesn't drown those who surrender. It only drowns those who fight. Once you let go, life begins to carry you to places that effort never could have reached. This trust is not blindness. It's vision beyond sight. It's knowing that the same force that moves the stars also moves through you. You are not drifting aimlessly. You are being carried by something infinitely wise. When you live from that knowing, peace ceases to be a destination. It becomes your natural state, your quiet confidence that even when you can't see the path, you are the path. At the end of every struggle, every letting go, every surrender, a quiet realization dawns. You were never meant to control the river. You were meant to be the river. Alan Watts taught that this is the final liberation, when the distinction between you and life disappears. You stop living as a separate self trying to manage the universe, and you start living as the universe expressing itself through the form of you. In that instant, the chase ends. What remains is effortless movement, awareness in motion, harmony without resistance. You no longer wake up chasing goals just to prove your worth. You move because movement itself feels alive. You love without fear of loss because you no longer see love as possession, but as participation in the great unfolding. You work not to reach something, but to express something. This is the essence of flowing with life, no longer measuring moments by gain or loss, but by depth of experience. Every breath becomes both the beginning and the reward. In this freedom, joy ceases to depend on conditions. It arises naturally, like sunlight filtering through clouds. Watts would say that when you stop clinging, even ordinary moments shimmer with divinity. You see beauty in imperfection, grace in uncertainty, meaning in simplicity. The noise of ambition fades into the background, and what's left is the pure sound of existence, tranquil, unforced, awake. And once you live in this way, you stop fearing the future because you realize you are never heading somewhere else. You are always here. The journey wasn't about reaching the flow. It was about remembering that you are the flow. Every fall was a wave returning to the sea. Every ending was a curve in the current. You were never chasing life. You were life chasing itself. So breathe. Loosen your grip. Let the river move you. In doing so, you fulfill the very purpose of existence: to flow, to feel, to be. This is the freedom Watts spoke of, not the freedom of control, but the freedom of trust. The freedom of being carried effortlessly by the rhythm that has been guiding you since the moment you were born. As this reflection draws to a close, take a moment to breathe deeply, slowly, without expectation. Feel the rhythm of your breath, rising and falling, like the tide. That rhythm is life itself. It's been guiding you all along, even in the moments you thought you were lost. Alan Watts would remind us that the greatest illusion is believing you are separate from the current you swim in. The truth is simpler, gentler, and far more profound. You were never chasing life. You were always part of its movement. The chase was only a dream of separation. The awakening is remembering that the dream was never real. When you stop running, you finally hear what silence has been trying to tell you. That peace was never out there, waiting at the end of your achievements. It's been here all along, waiting for you to stop struggling long enough to notice it. Watts said that the meaning of life is just to be alive, and in that simplicity lies a revolution. You don't need to perform worthiness, or prove purpose, or manipulate destiny. Life is not a race to be won, it's a rhythm to be felt. And when you relax into that truth, effort transforms into ease, and time itself slows down. Everything you've been chasing, success, love, peace, validation, begins to find you when you stop chasing it. Because the flow doesn't reward force, it responds to alignment. When you act from awareness instead of anxiety, the right people, opportunities, and moments begin to appear naturally. You stop controlling outcomes and start co-creating them. You realize that letting go was never losing. It was trusting that life knows the way better than your fear ever could. And as you stand here, in this stillness, you can feel it, that invisible current pulling you gently forward. You no longer need to fight it. You no longer need to question it. You just breathe and allow. Because now, you understand what Watts meant when he said that you are the universe playing hide and seek with itself. You are the wave returning to the sea. You are the melody rediscovering its song. You are the flow, remembering itself through motion. So if this message resonated with you, if it stirred something deeper, something quietly awake, let it continue flowing. Share your thoughts below. Your words may become the spark that helps another soul stop chasing and start living. Subscribe and stay connected, because every reflection, every story, every insight we explore together is part of the same current, the same awakening. Like this video, not for the algorithm, but as an act of recognition, a small ripple of gratitude for the reminder that life doesn't need to be chased. It only needs to be felt.